Cheers.
So welcome, Martin Palethorpe. Here we are again exploring leadership, in particular conscious leadership. And today we're going to take a deep dive into leading others. So I'm really interested, Martin, in how does conscious leadership, this idea of conscious, present, aware leadership, how does that relate to leading others? What have you seen?
Well, the first thing I'd say that strikes me on this is to lead others, we need to be conscious. We need to be conscious of others. We need to be conscious of what they are thinking and feeling and what's going on in their minds, where they're at. And we also need to be conscious of where we're at and what we're thinking and feeling. So consciousness, for me, awareness, it is absolutely fundamental to be then being effective in leading others. And so once we have this awareness, once I have an awareness of where you're coming from, what you're thinking, how you feel about the latest initiative in the business and so on, the more clever I can be in leading you. That's the first thing to say. And I think the second thing I'd just like to say is that in today's world, underpinning conscious leadership of others, there are some fundamental values that need to be embedded in how I might lead others. And so we are in a world now that is transparent. It's demanding transparency, and being so transparent, it's creating a need to be honest and compassionate and to have kindness in the way that we lead others.
I like that. It sounds like, if I may just use a word that resonates for me, is human. Sounds like leaders need to be human. Is that are they the qualities? Kindness, compassion, honesty, transparency, in a good human, right? Yeah,
no, but I think it's great, because I think if you look at, all the things we're told we need to do, or well, I guess it's very easy to come out of your teens and into your 20s and think it's all about results in business.
Yeah.
And in the focus on results, we can almost operate like and think others are like machines. How do we get the most out of them? How do we drive ourselves and others hard? And in the journey of doing that, we lose the human element. Absolutely.
So what you're saying is we've talked about leading yourself and being aware and conscious for yourself, but now we're talking about bringing that quality to your interactions and dealings with others. So what would you say are some of the most important key areas that enable a leader to, let's say, connect, have empathy, compassion, kindness with others? What helps them do that?
So I think it might be good to look at three different areas.
Okay.
So the first area is to what extent we're tuning into our people, to what extent we're listening and understanding. The second area is to what extent we are empowering them, developing them to become more capable and to be able to do more. And then the third element I'm going to look at is to what extent we're challenging them, supporting them, but challenging them and inspiring them onwards. So, yeah, should we just start in the first area, really? And I know it's an area that you're passionate about, Elizabeth.
It is listening and understanding. It's often missing in leadership. There's can be a lot of, I know what we need to do, listen to me. And I feel like a listening leader has got a much better chance of connecting as a fellow human being, understanding and being aware of where other people are at. And it's often kind of in the busyness of work, we can forget to do it. We're busy with our agenda as a leader. And I'm just really interested in what you've seen about how does that listening and understanding, how do we cultivate it? How do we have more of it? How do we bring it to the fore? It's so important, and it's often missing.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, as I'm thinking about the fact that really what is leadership? Leadership only occurs successfully if there's followership, if there's people that are going to be inspired and engaged and bring their discretionary effort to the table because that they feel engaged. Now, the only way we can do that is by inspiring them from within themselves. And we can only inspire them from within themselves when we really understand where they are and what they're thinking and how they're feeling. So it's fundamental to, we spend our lives in our own heads, seeing the world the way that we do, whatever our job function, seeing the job function the way that we see it, having the opinions that we have, the belief systems that we have. But a fundamental part, I'm thinking of an employee here, and I'm going, well, okay, where are they at? Where are they at right now? But where are they at on the initiative that we've just implemented? Where are they at in how they think and feel about themselves? Where are they at with respect to anything? And the more I tune into that there's two things that then are available. One is I can be more clever in how I work with them. But the other absolutely critical element in this world where compassion and understanding is fundamental and required is that they feel heard and cared about.
Mm. Mm. It sounds like what it therefore requires, technically, is a willingness to set aside our own agenda, our own needs, our own wants, our own things we want to influence, our own make something happen energy, kind of putting that to one side and showing up almost like a blank canvas to receive the other person. Is that what you're pointing to here? Is the kind of leadership skill?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to get out of our own heads. Totally. And the other thing I'm thinking of is like, if you're a leader, how many people are you leading, right? Because often leaders get to the top because they're very good at executing and doing themselves. And they've got all the energy that they're bringing. But if I've got an organization of, I don't know, 5 people or 50 people or 1,000 people or 5,000 people, my primary job is to maximize the energy, the momentum, the energy that's coming from the people that I'm leading.
Mm.
And that can only really occur through tuning into them.
I love this because this energy thing starts to speak to releasing something to happen through people, which sounds to me like a lot like empowering. It's like liberation of something from within them. So just speak a little bit to that part, what you see about that.
Yeah, brilliant. So this is the second part really, which is how do we empower and how do we develop? So let's say I've got an organization of 100 people. But let's say I'm growing as well. I'm trying to grow my business at 10% a year, 10% a year, let's say, over the next 5 years. Now, I can only really do that the success and the speed of growth of my organization is limited by the capability of my people, of my 100 people. So the more competent they become in their roles, the more easy achieving the growth will become.
Makes sense.
Right. So I either, as the company grows, they become not good enough to do the role that they're now in 3 years' time. So I have to get rid of them and go through the cost of hiring and firing, which is a significant cost and stress and so on. Or I really look and I say, how do I maximize the capability? How do I get the potential out of my 100 people? And as I do that, they feel inspired because they're being invested in, they're being developed, and actually it helps me achieve the results too. So it's a fundamental mindset shift to say, it's all about getting the best out of my people.
Wow. So what would you say the kind of skills or tools, or maybe that's not the way I'm looking for, the approach you take to grow people? What does that look like to you? How do you develop people's innate potential and help them realize that?
Oh, that's a big question, and I'm wondering in this video how to answer that in a concise way without. I mean, I think it's an ethos first of all. It's primarily an ethos, which is how do I grow my people? How do I have growth conversations? How do we have feedback as part of the culture? How do we constantly have development conversations about how can we individually improve? And then there's the more detailed element of it is, ensuring that everyone has a development plan and that perhaps there's some money available to invest in people in courses or coaching or so it feels like there's an ethos piece and there's a more structural piece to enable the ethos to actually create the development.
Yeah, I love that. I love the ethos. Just having it in your conscious awareness that your job is growing your people. Just that alone will do a lot of heavy lifting, won't it? And it will lead you to the right solutions for you.
Yes.
There's something that strikes me from, because I work as like you do with a lot of CEOs, and this is what I often say to them. Look, your job is vision and direction and where we're going, but you then co-create with your people their expression of that vision for them. What does that mean for them? And then you support by removing all the obstacles in the way that might occur, that you can remove, that only leaders can remove from other leaders, people that work for them. So your job is to kind of do whatever makes sense in terms of support. And then the other thing is, to offer people in a comfort zone, offer them that challenge. So it feels to me like there's a triangle of vision, support, and challenge, which is something we've talked about before. That looks like a very practical way to go forward with leading others. What would you make of that?
Yeah, I like it. And I guess it's the third area that we just talked about at the beginning. So
yeah,
inspiring, right? So where does inspiration come from? Well, inspiration comes from within. But first place in terms of the vision and the direction is that it comes from the leader. What are they inspired by that is deeply resonant for them? Not just some sort of number on a spreadsheet that says I want to grow the business, financially. That doesn't really deeply resonate for people. So how do we create a vision that really, how does the leader create a vision that deeply inspires? And then how do they, because it inspires them, communicate it to the business in a way that then, as you've said, sort of makes sense for other people, that other people can really get hold of and become part of. So I love that. And then there's getting any obstacles out the way so that the energy of my example, and the energy and the inspiration of the 100 people can be realized. But also, so for me, then there's this joint, like, I want to support you. I want to support you in any way I can to help you, but I also want to challenge you. So how do I really be a challenger, but in a supportive, compassionate way, not in an old style 90s type way, which was directive and authoritarian and fear-based, but bring challenge in a way that can really unlock and unleash and unbound the potential.
I love that. So often we can end up wanting to help because they're our people, we want to be helpful, and we end up tying the shoelaces for them. And I think one of the things about a challenging style of leadership, when it comes from connection, from true empathy and compassion, I'm not going to, look, if we're all in a hurry and we need to get out the door, I'll tie the shoelaces. but actually there's value in me not, and letting that young, that person learning do it for themselves, make the mistakes, and I'm there, and I'm just holding the space for them to be challenged, and eventually the satisfaction they get from doing it is worth it. So it's kind of sometimes a discipline for those of us who like to be helpful as leaders to not be involved. Sometimes that making a space for someone to rise to a challenge can often be the most useful thing we can do, even if it's a bit uncomfortable for us. That's something I've noticed myself.
Yeah. So there's jumping in and tying the shoelaces yourself, which disempowers and doesn't develop.
Right.
So there's leaving the space for someone to own it and fail or succeed in the task. But whatever then happens, to use it as a learning and development opportunity, so that they grow, for next time.
You really remind me of Peter Senge. I think it's Peter Senge, the Learning Organization. It was a seminal work back in the 80s, I think. And it was really where everything you just said, the ethos, the spirit of everything we're looking at is how can we facilitate learning?
Yeah.
How can we facilitate growth? Maybe that's what's at the heart of leadership then, creating good, having awareness of how we can help others learn. I like that. So is there a final challenge you'd like to issue to anyone listening today, Martin, about leading others?
I always, in these things like this video that we're doing, my whole purpose of doing it is to trigger thinking in the people that are watching and listening. So that the invite to you is, if you're listening to this, which you are obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be able to take my invite, but it's like, is to really look at these topics, to how aware are you? To what extent do you really understand what's going on for your people in their thinking and their feeling? To what extent are you creating this sort of development environment where you can empower and grow your people? And to what extent then are you playing the role of actually being an inspiration to unlock and unleash the energy within your organization?
I love that question. Wow. Thank you very much, Martin. That's been really fascinating.
Thank you.